All right, here we are in my room. Gonna go over poor Charlie's Almanac. I don't even instinctually know the title of the name, but super good book. If you've never heard of it, or if you've never heard of him, it's a good idea to check him out. He has a lot of wisdom. Self-made billionaire, Warren Buffett's right-hand man. He's known for being at the Berkshire Hathaway meetings, and Warren Buffett will do his like 20-minute spiel, and then he'll look at Charlie Munger, and Charlie Munger does this thing where he goes, "I have nothing to add." I don't know. People make fun of it all the time, or it's fun thing to do. So, anyways, what he talked about 20 years ago, by the way, which is kind of crazy. He came up with these 25 cognitive biases that he noticed were happening all around us, but not a lot of people were talking about it. What influenced him was Cialdini's influence. If you've read that book, it's Cialdini's influence. And what Cialdini did was he joined like a lot of sales teams, different companies, and he found like what methods they were using in order to persuade or even trick people to do certain things. And what he found, Charlie Munger read, and then Charlie Munger came up with his own list. Because what a lot of books don't do is they don't list them out. They'll talk about it, but it's not like one through, because there's actually like 100 of these biases. So what these biases are, Munger calls them tendencies. Other people call them biases, shortcuts, rules of thumb. So basically our brain has these shortcuts, we'll use that term, to make decisions without having to completely analyze what's going on. So that's kind of where stereotyping comes. So like, this is probably a bad example, but if there's a certain category, like someone who looks shady, your brain makes the shortcut saying, hey, that's probably trouble. So it makes that decision really, really fast. And that's like a survival thing. That's the reason we do these things, or we have these biases. Because think about it, 50,000 years ago, and you see a tiger, and your brain doesn't make that, oh crap, I'm gonna die. Instead it goes, oh, what is that thing? It looks like a fluffy creature. I should touch it, or something dumb like that. We probably would all be extinct. So that's the reason they exist. But the other side to it is that now, fast forward 50,000 years forward, we don't live in that same environment. So if you read, is it Daniel Lieberman or Matthew Lieberman? He wrote the book, The Story of the Human Body. So he talks about evolutionary mismatch, which is kind of the same thing. They're not, but they are. And that's what he talks about. He talks about being like taking the big ideas from multiple disciplines and pulling them in together. So like, for example, economists, I don't really like reading their books because they speak of people being like super rational, like they in terms of opportunity cost. So like, I bought this book, but before I buy it, let me make sure that the $75 isn't being spent better off somewhere else. Like, nobody does that. If you're at a bar with all your friends and you're like, oh, let's do shots or something like that, you don't like, oh, this is going to cost me $80. I could really use that money instead to better suit me. I got to fix my AC or whatever. I'm like, that doesn't really happen. But anyways, which is interesting because recently I was reading Richard Thaler's book, Misbehaving, which is about the story of misbehaving economics. The reason misbehaving or behavioral economics exists is because the economics department, economists were having a conference, but two psychologists went. They met up, and then you have a more accurate field of study. Like, hey, humans don't actually make decisions like that. Like, we're not super rational like that. And then the guy's like, oh my God, you're so, I'm being super simple here, but that's his point. Take multiple disciplines and use them in different industries, different fields, different trains of thought, and you get more insight into life and stuff. And one thing I want to share about him, I like it. Oh, the reason you want to have multiple disciplines, big ideas, is because he has what you call the hammer. To the man with the hammer, every problem seems like a tendency, right? So this is, to To the man with the hammer, every problem seems like a nail. So this is me, right? Here's my tool belt. And I only have a hammer, right? So in the world where there are many problems, I'm gonna approach, as The Economist did, kind of picking on them right now, but because when I read it, I was like, even like years ago, I was like, I get what you're saying, but what world are you living in? If that were the case, everybody would probably have a lot more money saved up, or they wouldn't purchase expensive cars that you can't afford and stuff like that. So to the man with a hammer, every problem seems like a nail. So if you go to other big ideas, I don't know, biology, you get another tool. I don't know what that is, by the way. And if you study psychology, you get another tool. I don't know what that is either. So now you can approach problems like they don't look like nails anymore. Now you know, like, oh, I can use this little shaker cup and pour it on there and make that problem go away. Oh, this is a hammer. And then, you know, this is a biological problem. So that's his point, which I totally agree with. I read it and I was like, dude, why didn't anybody tell me this before? Because, like, opportunity cost, you want to talk about opportunity cost? I've missed out a lot by not knowing this stuff. 25 years of life. So, strongly recommend you buying this book. It's a little pricier, and it's not easy to get, as far as you won't find it in stores. You have to order online. I actually found this. There's a dedicated website for this book. So Amazon will probably sell it for like $75. But if you just Google Poor Charlie's Almanac, there's a site that I got it from, so it's not like a scam, for like $50. And I also bought it's over here, A Few Lessons for Investors and Managers by Warren Buffett. This costs $12. But the value that you get out of this book is pretty crazy. I mean, the first lesson in here, it talks about, or the first chapter, it talks about price is what you get, price is what you pay, value is what you get. So in anything, like, the price of this book was $12, but the value that I can get, obviously you don't apply everything you learn like right away, but just knowing that concept and the 12 concepts in this book, I think it's 12. It'll serve you for the rest of your life. It's 15. So, smart stuff. And again, that goes back to what Charlie Munger was saying. Have multidisciplinary big ideas so that you can pull from different frameworks of thought. So anyways, back to cognitive biases. I just want to go over one because there's 25. If I go through all of them, probably be here for like 3 hours. So I'm going to go over the biggest one today since it's the first video. So the first one is the reward and punishment. Reward and punishment. This is a good marker. Tendency.
Make that and 10%.
I can't. I do a plus sign. Anyways, so this is the super reaction, super response tendency. Super powerful. Like, if there's one thing, if you want someone to do something, if you want to persuade somebody, if you want to sell more stuff, if you want to get more fit, if you want to make more money, this one pretty much applies to all methods or all walks of life. I mean, even Sigmund Freud, I don't know when he was alive. I don't know if it was the 1800s or whatever, but I was reading one of his books a couple days ago, and he knew this like 200 years ago or whatever. He called it the pleasure principle. So we go towards things that give us pleasure and run away from things that pain us. But it's so powerful that this is how you get things done. So like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I like the book Total Recall. It's really good. But his dad, right before breakfast, as a little kid, by the way, he would make him do push-ups before he ate. So what that created for Arnold Schwarzenegger, luckily for him, had a dad like that, he, in order to eat, he did push-ups. So you were associating working out or physical exercise with a positive reward. Which, if you think about it, a lot of times, I remember being a soccer player, and whenever people or players would be out of line, the coach would make them run laps. But the issue I see now, in hindsight bias, that's the thing, is you're associating physical stamina, like becoming better at running, endurance, with bad actions. So like if your kid is acting up and you're like, oh, you're in trouble, go wash the dishes. Like washing the dishes is probably just a normal chore that we all have to deal with life. So you're associating it with a bad thing, which is something I thought was interesting. But anyways, that's why Arnold probably was super dedicated to lifting weights. Not only that, but he also talks about in the book, like he was really into chicks. Like part of the reason he wanted to be big and strong and, you know, in movies and stuff, because he wanted the attention. And whatever you think of it, I mean, that's a good reward. Turned out good for him. So that's one example of it. Yeah, and I'm just gonna go through it like a couple examples in different areas of life, just so you're like aware. Because again, like I've said, it's a handy dandy magic eraser. Like I've said, these heuristics happen either for you or against you. So just being aware of it, I feel that it gives you and I an advantage.
You have 8 minutes.
I have 8 minutes, by the way. I was trying to keep this short. Anyways, thank you for that. So in this book, he goes over a little example where the FedEx employees, they had to get all the work done overnight. So like, there's an airplane, and there's a whole bunch of workers. This is horrible. And they had to say they had to pack up all these boxes into the airplane correctly between 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. I'm just making this up. It's something along these lines though. And they tried a lot of different things to do it, but they would not do it like correctly. They would get it done, but either packages would be missing or it wouldn't get done correctly or whatever. So they changed the reward or the incentive, which was, hey, we don't care how long it takes you, just get it done and get it done right. So basically they were telling, dude, if you guys finish in 30 minutes and you do everything right, go home. Which if you guys work, you know, that's pretty cool. Get my job done, don't have to wait, and I get to go home. Sounds great. So what happened? They were like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And they solved that problem. So one way you can use the reward super response is in your career. So I don't know if you're it doesn't even matter if you're an employee, manager, or business owner, or whatever. As long as you up the reward within reason. You can't be like, I'll give you $10,000 if you do your job right. Actually, you can, but in most cases that's not practical because we don't all have $10,000 to give away. Which kind of reminds me, like, or makes me think, like, to all the world's biggest problems, if like we pulled together like $2 million, like, I don't know, what's a problem we have today? Like people being the obesity or whatever, and or being overweight, eating too much or stuff. I don't know. He's signaling me. I can't tell.
I'm trying to say freaking how people are starving.
Oh, people starving. He was doing this, so I was like, people are fat. It's like a double meaning. Anyways, so yeah, people are starving. I guarantee if we all pulled money together and say, hey, to whoever figures out how to solve this problem, say it's $100 million, maybe we won't find the answer, but we'll find like a bunch of kids and moms and dads and brothers and sisters like scheming up how they're going to solve the problem because there's a reward for it.
With $100 million itself, we could solve world hunger.
Okay, well, go ahead and get started with that problem. But that's a different subject. Anyways, so I'm only talking really about the reward side, only because the punishment side, you can't really do as much, especially nowadays. Now, if you present time, it's more reward. But if you want to go back a couple hundred years ago, or even if you go back to slavery, which is kind of messed up, like it was punishment. You had to do things because you'd get killed. So like one example I like to use is the Egyptians, or not my example, it's in this book. He talks about how the pyramids were built. It wasn't like, hey dude, do you mind building some pyramids for me? It was like, hey dude, you mind building some pyramids for me? Or I won't feed you, or I'll kill you, whatever. So that's a super response. You're gonna do it. Another one. I don't really know how it works because I don't know too much about it, but I'm gonna skip that one. I put Hitler on here as an example, but it's like propaganda and stuff. And it, by the way, they don't all just work in singularity, or like it's not just one. So this is the reward punishment tendency, but since there's 25, they can all work in combination. And when they do that, Charlie Munger calls it the Lollapalooza effect.
Hitler was for utopia.
And there was a reward there, is my point. So that's how he persuaded a part of it. I'm not too good in the history department. That's actually one thing I need to work on. I find history pretty, not boring, but it's like...
I'm good with it.
Yeah, you like history? You're next up then.
You got like 3 minutes.
Oh, snap.
We can cut this too.
So, books... and one thing I'm trying to get at is how can you and I, set rewards up for ourselves so that we do things that we didn't do. And it's kind of like the goal setting thing. Like people are always talking about setting goals and stuff. It's important to reward yourself, like pretty much immediately. Because if you want to do something, not me saying this, willpower is where I got it from. Your brain, a lot of books talk about it, but our brains don't want to change. We're safe. It doesn't want to do that stuff. But if you reward yourself and you nudge it, it helps out. So I got books here. Apps, by the way, we get addicted to apps because they're rewarding. Candy Crush. There's a good book called Hooked. It talks about apps and how there's a 4-step process on how to make you not want to stop, how you get addicted to it. You and I get addicted to it. Even from the sound it makes to the whenever you complete something, it does a yay. Good and bad. I do Duolingo sometimes, and I like it when the horns go off when I finish a lesson. Ba ba. So, I like that. So apps is a good example of reward punishment tendency. And again, these are all over the place. I'm specifically focused on marketing. So for me, when I do websites or when I'm trying to, do a promotion or whatever, I up the reward, or I'm aware to up the reward. That's something I didn't know, but now I know it. So the higher the reward, the more likely you are to convert, is what they call. So that's super important if you haven't looked into that and you're into that kind of business and stuff. So the FedEx, the Egyptians, religion, there's a lot of reward, whether it's good or bad. There's a lot of reward for being in it. Eternal life. It's kind of hard to beat that. Chores, the hammer tendency, I went all over that. So, how much time I got?
About 40 seconds.
So in summary, the first and most powerful cognitive bias that Charlie Munger has put up for us here is reward/punishment. And Sigmund Freud said this a long time ago. We move towards things that pleasure us and away from things that cause us pain. So keep that in mind. Make of it what you like. And I'll see you on the next one.